handling a big base shop is working.
Yeah, nice.
We've got less people here today than we've ever had.
I think it just all comes from taking personal responsibility, right?
Yeah. That is, yeah, definitely the case. Cool. Well, I have something I'm gonna go over. We can turn our heads, just because I know we could use the board too. Let's see. Yeah, it's fine. I mean, yeah, because if we could all just kind of turn chairs a little bit. It's not a big deal. I just wanted to be useful. That way, everybody, you gotta get a little workout in, guys. Yeah, do it. All right, cool.
Strongman Saturday.
Hey, strongman every day.
There you go.
Hey, Matt, what's the password? Oh. JK. Bam.
Oh. Not right in front of me, Mooney.
Oh. Oopsie.
Either right here or right in front of me. You're already in front of me.
I'll use my phone. It'll be a lot easier. All right. Good thing about being prepared. Got this now. General training. We're gonna do a keynote. Boom. All right, cool, guys. So I want to go over a pretty simple, very easy topic, but I think it gets kind of misconstrued a lot of the times. I think when you talk about proper edification or field training, I think we were talking a little bit with Janice and Byron too about this. There's a lot of questions that come up. In some scenarios, it could be of when you're in the appointment or when you're setting the appointment, right? We're not talking about when we're actually going to start field training, right? You might be in the car with your agent, or you might be by yourself. These are kind of like the top to do, not to do type of things. I also want to make it interactive, so we'll kind of maybe get some people that want to volunteer and kind of get up here and then kind of practice a little bit. But it's super important. When you guys think about like field training, edification, what kind of comes to mind? What are some of the things that kind of come to mind that you guys have heard at least?
It's building up your field trainer that's going to take you out in the field.
Perfect. Transferring
trust.
Trust. Cool, exactly. All right.
Transferring rapport.
Credibility, rapport, right? These are some of the words you should kind of be focusing on. So when we talk about this, and this is kind of what I was telling you, Janice, it was sometimes when they don't see you as a certain thing, right? Maybe you're in the nursing background or whatever. I think your story is super, 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 super important when you're on a KTP, when you're closing business. Relating. That's like 90% of the game. You know, if I'm sitting down with Reggie and I know he likes to drink Monster energy drinks and work out, and right, I'm like, all right, dude, I love, right? You got to camouflage a little bit. You know, you don't have to be fake, but you know, hey man, I like working out too, right? Even if you haven't been to the gym in 6 months. But at the end of the day, right, you got to just, you know, got to relate. So your goal is to relate. That's number one. No matter what, when you're sitting with somebody, right, when you're talking to your agents, whatever it is on a KTP, it's always about relating to people. You know, and secondly, it's where you're at. So remember these questions when you go into these appointments, something that I always focus on. It's where you're at, what did you see? So what did you see as far as in this, WFG, right? Because remember, every KTP could be a what? A one-on-one, right? It should be one-on-one first, right? Mess with the, right? And then get the sale. So a lot of times, you know, it's you know, what did you see? And then what you did. So if I'm in the nursing background, I was telling Janice this, it's, you know what? If they don't see you as what you kind of want to be seen as, then you probably need to take it a little bit more serious and say, hey, you know what? You know what? I was in the nursing, right where you at? I was in the nursing background. You know what? I saw a lot of good that I was doing. I loved helping people. But at the end of the day, my family was getting left behind financially. I was here more than I was there with my family, and I felt kind of bad. And you know what? I did something about it. I was able to, you know, sit down with Nick Lancaster, who, you know, if you're not signed off 100%, you should always, you know, that guy's in there doing a one-on-one right now. I mean, he's here for us. So, you know, what did you see? Hey, you know what? I did my best. I, you know, sat down with Nick. He showed me some things that changed my family's life forever. And then where you're currently at. And you know what? I love this. You know, I thought I loved nursing. You know what? This is my passion. I want to help people and make a lot of money. And I can do both here, right? So now you start to entice maybe the recruiting side, right? We're like, whoa, you know, how did you get into this, right? The right person's going to ask, how did you get into this? And then, right, where you're going. So you know what? I see a lot of future in this. I'm able to help, you know, my friends and my family. And, you know, if you're field training somebody, we're going to go over it. It kind of changes a little bit. But if it's by yourself, right, hey, you know what? I see myself going over 6 figures with this company very soon. You know, I'm going to show you some financial concepts that were gone over with me. And, you know, again, relate at all times, relate, right? Sometimes it's kind of cheesy, but I use it still. It's the you know, I know how you feel kind of thing, right? These questions, oh, hey, right, if there's an objection, like, oh, you know, it doesn't really matter what objection it is, you know, oh, I heard, you know, mutual funds are better. Hey, you know what, I used to feel the same way, you know, but I got the proper education, which I'm going to go over right now, right? You have to learn how to, like, let's take a cycle. You have to learn how to, like, almost shift the energy back into, like, what you want the conversation to be like. So, awesome. So, good on this part, right? Any questions so far? Not so far. Cool. Awesome. Next one. Cool. So now this is the actual like appointment edification, right? So the word's gonna kind of cut off, but I'll kind of. Oh no, I did. Cool. So here, right, you can kind of go through the steps, right? So whether you hire a new agent, right, make the list, make the calls. Just want to go over the basics. But then your main job. So if I'm the new agent, right, and let's say Matt recruited me, my main job as a new agent for Matt is to line him up with appointments. And I have to edify him and impress the heck out of my appointment, right? So if I'm sitting with Anthony and, you know, let's say, you know, married, right? Got 6 kids and counting or something, I don't know, whatever. And Matt Chang and me are there, and Matt Chang's like, hey, dude, tell me some stats about this. I'm gonna say, hey, you know what, Anthony, he's married, 6 kids, right? Loves helping people, got a big heart, good, you know, good guy. Awesome. What, you know, my job is, hey, when I'm there with Anthony, it's, hey, Anthony, we're friends for, I don't know, 2 years or 3 years. If my job is to get Anthony to be impressed by Matt, right? So I gotta say nothing but nice things, right? Obviously be honest and truthful. I think we're all really good people here, so that's pretty easy for us to be honest about it. Okay, cool. Then we have, you know, what did you learn in the business? You know, you learn the business, and you're gonna master the business in the field. That's something Ed Milet says, I think in his CD, and that's something that I always remembered. And that's something really big. I think I should kind of really talk about this. If you want more in-depth about this type of stuff, it's very important to listen to like the KTP CD from Ed Milet. There's a lot of different ones that he has, but those are really, really, really good, right? So far, right, we make the calls, the list, and all that stuff. So whose job is it, when you're brand new, whose job is it to make the calls?
The training.
Trainer.
Trainer.
Exactly. So if you're brand new right now and you're like, man, I haven't set up enough, you know, training appointments, then the key thing here is, you know what, you're not going to get your story down 100% in the beginning. You're not going to get everything right. So your biggest thing you should do, top 25, sit down with Nick, right? Sit down with whoever your trainer is, right? Cool. And then this is now the bread and butter. So the main job, like we were talking about, is that the trainee has to transfer all the trust, right? So how would we do that? So Anthony, or who would like to volunteer? How would you properly edify me? Let's say I was going on a field training appointment. Does anybody know how? How would you go about it?
So, like, let's say for example, I'm sitting down with my parents, right?
Okay.
So we sit down
Mhm.
to the whole kitchen table. I, the trainee, I set the whole tone for the whole appointment. It's my job to make Eddie feel welcome and my parents to start trusting him.
Right.
So I sit him down. I clear the table. Right. It's always like a certain place that you want to make sure everyone's sitting
Back to the wall. Right. You want to make sure there's no other things going on. Right.
Yeah. And then I say, so Mom, Dad, I'm super excited. This is Eduardo Ceballos. You know, luckily he was able to bring me on board into the business. He's been able to help me and implement a lot of great things for me in my financial fund that I had even no idea about. Me coming from banking, I thought I knew everything, and turns out I know nothing. And I definitely want to sit down with both of you guys and teach you guys the exact same stuff that I learned.
And that's literally all you really have to do. And at the end of that's perfect. I mean, at the end of the day, it kind of sounds, if you're kind of new to this, it might sound a little cheesy. You're like, oh, it sounds so cheesy. But you know what? First of all, you'd like it if they said it about you, right? Let's just be real. And then number two, right? Number two, at the same time, it's important, guys. It's not that we need it, okay? We don't. You know, if you're field training somebody, you know, you don't really need to do it. It's not that like, oh, I'm doing it because you need it. No, it's because, you know, the transferring of the trust is so huge. I don't think you'll be able to close an appointment properly if you don't have that edification. A lot of times, you know, the big mistakes is, let's say that same scenario, let's say she recruited me. It's the, hey, Thomas, thanks for having this appointment with you. Dude, I know you're so busy, man. Desiree?
Yeah.
You're like, wait, what? It's like you're uphill the whole time. That's awkward, and it happens
That
if you don't properly tell your people, right? So, I think before we kind of dive into this, before you get to the appointment, when you're driving to the appointment, right? We're gonna take whose car?
The
The trainee's car, right? Exactly. So at the end of the day, it's very important when you're in the car with the trainee, you're gonna be going over what? The Lakers or edification.
You always talk about what's going on.
Always talk about the appointment, right? Game plan it, the people, what they do, you know, what they used to do, how long do you know them for? You know, all that type of stuff is very, very important. So as we kind of go through this here, so the trainee drives to the appointment, right? No awkward salesy vibe. You know, go over, you know, the genuine business that we do, right? The heart to help people. And then the trainee knocks on the door, right? So small talk takes us to kitchen table. I think one of the big reasons that we need to pack out this room, and the easiest way for us to maybe do that, if we're not already right getting more people in here, is to sit down on a KTV with somebody. Get a qualified trainer, and you're going to sell them the vision. They're going to show them all these financial concepts. We're going to wow them, because that happens every time, even though sometimes they don't want to admit it. It does happen. And they now have a good taste in their mouth about what, you know, Mooney is doing, right? And they're going to be like, you know what? They're right. I do need help financially. And I think that when you do this stuff, right, when you follow the system the way it should go, you know, we're at the kitchen table now, right? At the kitchen table, you want to sit towards the wall, right? So me, if I'm sitting there with Thomas, right, and he's field training me, or I'm field training him, it's my job, if I'm the trainee, make sure the table's set, right? We're going to take us all the way to the table. So Thomas, don't worry about it. I got it, right? As soon as I knock on the door, open the door, hi, right? We say hi. I get through the door. My job as a trainee, if they want to sit down on those couches, we're sitting at the table, right? So you gotta kind of have that firm conversation. Hey, you know what? I'll help you clean the table or whatever it is. Sit at the table. We're gonna both sit towards the wall. That way, no little kids are running around. If there's like a little child running around with like diapers on his head and stuff, who takes care of it? Trainee all day, right? Cool. So yeah, exactly. I've seen some.
Been there, done that.
Yeah.
I had to do
Really?
that. Yes.
That's crazy. Awesome. That's all. See, that's awesome. Those will be stories when you know
That was
we're all.
our very first training appointment.
Really?
Matt's like, to handle it. I'm like, I got you.
See, those are good stories you'll hear when like, we're all super big in the company. Those are the stories you get to tell on stage. It's pretty awesome. Cool. So right, we're at the kitchen table. Natural reaction, edify wrong. Kind of went over that a little bit, right? We say the wrong things about the wrong people, right? That's why it's so important during Mozone to get to know each other. Like now I know you were awesome at dancing, right? It's one of your passions you had. I know kind of the bad side of that story too. But at the same time, now I know a little bit about everybody. You know, Thomas, I know about you, right? And that's why it's very important because I don't know who I might get matched up with. Like I sent, there's somebody who I confirmed to San Dimas. I didn't know that Guillermo's going to be there. He's in New York, and so then I sent him there anyway. So again, you got to just know a little bit about everybody. So hey, Chris is there. I know what he's about, and then Will's there. I know a little bit about them. So you got to kind of know. Your job is to know about everybody so you can relate. It's always relating, guys. Always, whether it's people in this business or it's people that you're meeting. Always relate, right? So don't mistakenly right edify them. Cool. And then obviously edifying correctly sets the pace for the appointment. So the proper edification by a trainee. You know, before we get to this, does anybody know how to? So besides Desiree, does anybody want to take a stab at it? Properly edifying? Somebody new, preferably. Somebody who hasn't kind of. Matt, I know you know, dude. Just a little. You're not gonna get it wrong. We're here to help. That's what it is. You know, if you feel a little bit uncomfortable, I think that's the name of the game. Want to take a step? All right, why don't you stand up?
Keep in front of your
Stand up.
You stand up. You stand up. It'll be good for you, man. You'll spread the wings. All right, cool, man. So I can put it on the board so you can read it, and you can. That's just one way of doing it, or do you think you kind of know? You kind of been studying it?
Well, I haven't been doing that much.
Okay.
So.
Here, we'll put it on the board. So you can actually stand closer to it if you need to. This is just one of the ways that I've written it down, but you can read it and you can go ahead and practice it.
Okay.
So okay, cool. You can read it.
Okay.
So let's say let's say I'm the actual guy, right, that you set up an appointment with. I'm your best friend. Okay. This is what you're gonna tell your best friend.
I'm gonna tell you that.
Yeah. So let's say me and my wife, right? So let's say you're 30 and right, you got family too. So kind of sounds a little bit more grown, right? You got to make yourself sound a little bit older too. So that's part of it. So you can go ahead and read it.
Hey, listen, you guys. I appreciate you guys willing to listen, but I just got to tell you something up front. I'm just very thankful that Eduardo took time out of his busy day to train me. He is on the top guys in the entire company and has shown me things I've never seen and has helped my family through life. It's one of the main reasons why I'm doing this. So I asked him as a favor to me to come and show you guys. Thank you, Eduardo.
Right. Transfer of trust, very simple, and at that point, right, then it kind of just continues. It's pretty simple though, right? You could probably learn that in 5 minutes.
Yeah, I haven't practiced that.
Yeah, but I mean, this is just one. There's different ones, dude. It doesn't really matter. It's just being honest and coming from a good place, right? Sincerity, you know, and all that stuff. Obviously, a lot of the concepts we talk about are pretty important, right?
Yeah.
So I think that once you sit down, thank you. Cool. So yeah, at the end of the day, right? There's different ways. I think you went over a very simple way too. I like simple. It doesn't have to be crazy long. It doesn't have to be intricate. The main thing is just transferring trust. That happens all the time. I think Ed Milet went over like a money. I recorded it because it was ridiculous. But when he talked about how in the middle of the presentation, if you just kind of, you guys remember, he was like, if you just kind of stop in the middle of the presentation, hey guys, you know what? Let me just stop this for a second. Let me just really share with you guys why it is that I love doing this. Like, that is amazing. If you do that in the middle of a presentation, I think that's money. That just like calms everything down. It's like you're off kind of like you're kind of like rubric, right? You're off the guide, off the beaten path, and now I think they feel a little bit more natural. So I think, again, it's always using these to your advantage, and obviously, you know, to help spread the word of what we do. Then training, obviously, after the edification. So this is what the trainer does. So how about a trainer? Can a trainer do kind of what do you guys use? Let's kind of hear what you guys
Thomas.
use. Or Thomas, what do you use usually when you, after, so the trainee edifies you, then what do you usually say?
Okay,
Because everybody does something a little different, that's why I kind
yeah,
of.
well, I just thank them. I said thank you for taking the time to, you know, to sit down with us today. You're going to learn some, you know, incredible financial solutions that, you know, that definitely may be able to help you move forward with something better than what you already have. Really today is just a chance for you to learn, just to see what the trainees,
Right.
what the trainees doing, and then so that way you can be a great referral source. But if you see something here today that I show you that you that excites you, we definitely want to be able to help you out with that as well. Something along that line.
Boom. Right. What about Matt? What do you usually use?
So what I do is, like, if I was sitting with, like, let's say if Eduardo was my trainee and I'm sitting down with Janice and Byron, I say, Janice, Byron, I want to say, first of all, thank you guys for taking time out of your busy schedule to help out Eduardo today with his training. I know he really appreciates it. My job today is really just to share with you guys what it is we do, and, you know, for you guys to ask a lot of questions, because, you know, when it comes to money, we're not very educated. So one thing I will ask you guys, and I encourage us to ask as many questions as you would like, because not only does it help you guys, but it also helps Eduardo out in the field when he's signed off and able to go out and do this on his own. Does that make sense? So we just want to bring a lot of value, and if you guys see anything that, you know, can help you guys, or if you know anyone that can benefit from our products and services, we would love to help them on your behalf. Does that sound good?
Sign me up, man. Jesus.
Oh, that's good.
Sign me up, man. Put me to rock me to sleep and give me a bottle, man. Jesus, yeah. Smooth. That's what it is. Smooth. So I kind of wrote down something a little bit simpler. I think this is almost pretty close to what Ed Milet kind of. I don't know. I'm kind of weird about that stuff. I kind of take a little bit of everybody. It depends on the energy of the appointment. That's something you'll learn once you're a little bit more experienced, guys. I think sometimes if you think about it too much, even in the beginning stages, you're like, I hope this appointment goes great, or, you know, I think we're talking with Janice and Byron, same thing. It's like, oh, we sit down and then, right, they say yes, and then things kind of don't make sense. So I think, you know, I've always tried to stick close to what the professionals and the best in this business have done, and I feel like that way I know I'm doing what's right. So, you know, for example, right, the same situation. Hey, I appreciate the introduction. You know what? I want to thank you guys for having us. I know how busy you guys can be with family, right? So the trainer thanks them for their time, right? Not the trainee. So, you know what? I want to thank you guys for having us. I know how busy you guys can be with family, and you know what? It's a pleasure to be here. I just want to thank you for helping, you know, Andy and his training. And in the next hour or so, if we can find any way to maybe help your family or someone you may know about, you know, we'll definitely, you know, maybe talk about that, you know, or something like that. I know other people, you know, for the one-on-one type aspect, right, you can always throw the, hey, we're always looking for good people, and if at the end of this something kind of excites you or jumps out at you, you know, maybe we can talk about that in possible positions or something like that, right? Just kind of a very easy way of throwing things in there. But so far, so good, right?
Yes.
Cool. Now, some of the do's and don'ts, now this is kind of funny, but it's true. Don't drink a lot of water, obviously, before these appointments, KTPs and stuff. Don't eat. You never know, man. Indian food is not a good one, Mooney. Do not eat Indian food before an appointment. We'll go ahead and say that right now. Once, you know. But it's true, because you don't, it's not that it's bad, it's just you don't want to really leave unattended, right? There's like a certain energy and a flow of the appointment, and you don't want to cut that short at any point. So that's always a good one. You know, make sure your phone, right, put it upside down, or, you know, kind of silence it. I mean, these are kind of basic things, but you'd be surprised.
And you might want to chew gum too.
Yeah, I mean, anything that'll make
bad breath.
anything that'll make your appointment go smoother, right? I probably should have pre-framed this a little bit better, but at the end of the day, you do.
Yeah,
Mint, yeah, a little breath spray, or, yeah, but not.
I mean, that was
I
Dan
think
Charlie.
the gum is distracting. Like you're
It
chewing
is.
gum while you're doing an appointment.
It is. Yeah, it's kind of tacky too, kind of, yeah. So yeah, at the end of the day, you guys do some of those things. Obviously, look the part, right? I guess, you know, kind of going back, dress the part, right? So not necessarily you have to wear a tie, but you should be wearing, right, a coat. Should be wearing dress shirts, slacks. If you just got off work, then hey, what? Take a chain, you know, spare suit in the car. You know, like Superman in the phone booth, whatever. Starbucks. I've done that. I've done it at Starbucks.
And yeah, it's one thing that Melissa told me a long time ago. I that I try to share with everybody is that one time she told me, how do you know if you're dressed properly, right? She says you need to look yourself in the mirror, see yourself through that door, coming through that door, and if you buy from yourself.
That's
What I
really
buy
good.
from, what I buy from, what I buy
Really
from
good.
me if I saw myself walking
That's
through.
really good.
If you're gonna do $1 million rollover, if you're gonna see
Yeah,
in front of
I think-
somebody who has $1 million, you gotta look your best, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's why when you're out in the field with a trainee, you ask the questions about what they do for work. So you should ideally dress one step, maybe two above. So if you're dressing, if you're gonna sit down with an engineer, like how Eddie's dress is perfect, a doctor, a lawyer, right? You're gonna sit down with somebody that's blue collar, hardworking. You wanna be maybe a little bit more relatable, dress slacks and maybe a really nice polo, or dress shirt with no tie.
You need to look, people need to trust you.
Yeah.
Mhm.
If you look like a slob, you don't take care of yourself, they look at that and go, if he doesn't care about
Yeah.
himself, how's he gonna care about me and my money?
Yep.
Money's the most important thing,
Yeah.
besides your family, but I mean,
Yeah. Yeah, both of those.
monetarily.
Yeah, yeah, and that's super true, man. I think everybody made a really good point, but I think I really like that. Would you buy from yourself? I think that's so important. Even when you prospect, you gotta look the part. Sometimes I don't know about you guys, but let's say even on let's say a Sunday, right? It's a normal family day, but even if you were to take a shower, right, and you dress nice, you feel better.
Yep.
Your posture's better. You walk better. You feel confident. It's like a different feeling, and it's true. It affects it, and I think that's true, man. Mimicking the appointment. I mean, what these people do and stuff is super huge. Obviously, if we dive into this, right? So this is the edification part, but yeah, we can definitely go into that stuff. So things to remember, right? So remember that, we're not Michael, we're the Michael Jordan. Right? It says my 101 right there. I love that. We're Michael Jordan, right? We're Kobe. We got the ball at the last second. So the takeaways, right? That's in our toolbox. The information we share, that's in our toolbox. No one knows what you're gonna say. So what's awesome about this is that if the trainers, obviously they're trainers for a reason. So if the appointment is running kind of interesting and the agent hasn't really edified properly, usually a good trainer can kind of shimmy his way and do his best job at kind of putting the Band-Aid on. But at the same time, the cool thing is because we're Michael Jordan and not them, that gives us all the leverage. If I'm sitting down with Reggie and and it's an appointment with him and I wasn't edified properly, then it's all up to me now, right? Now it's like, all right, now you got to show your magic, right? Why you're an SMD or whatever. So, right, be confident, have a great attitude. I think that's really big. I think when I talked to some of these clients, even yesterday, some of the business owners that we sat with, I think being confident, having a great attitude. That's why I think right now related a lot to what Melissa had told Cynthia is because if you have that great attitude, you look the part, you feel the part, you know what you're gonna say. At the end of the day, you know that you're an example in this business. If you have the image and you know the knowledge, it's just a matter of getting it done, right? So the trainer can use the trainee's name and example to connect thoughts or emotions, right? So let's say we're in the middle of a KTP. I'm sitting with Thomas, and I'm training Anthony, and at this point, we're gotten towards the end, right? Which I can kind of share a little bit, and got some time. But let's say we're sitting down, and it's it's crunch time, it's the end, and I kind of went over the different rules, the tax boxes, right? All the stuff. I'm pretty much done with the presentation, and at that point, kind of gauging whether to get into showing him some budgets, right? Like, hey, you know what? Let's kind of put some of that money we were talking about earlier, what you're kind of already using. Let's kind of see what we can do here. So at that time, if I feel some hesitance, right, and something like that, it's going to be Anthony's job to kind of gauge it, oh, okay, he kind of needs a little nudge. So it's usually the trainee that gives a nudge. So in this case, let's say Anthony's a trainee, so it would be, this allows you to bring a trainee and his associations in at least a few times. So you can do it at least once or twice. But at that point, let's say he's kind of a little hesitant. Hey, you know what? I get how you feel. That's kind of how Anthony felt, to be honest with you. Anthony, you were in a similar position, right? I mean, when I met him, didn't have much savings, right? Wasn't prepared financially. And I think we were able to do some of that. I mean, I think you could probably, you could always relate to him. You could probably speak on some of that stuff. And then at that point, transfer the trust back to him and then back over to you.
Gotcha.
Right? So I think that's a huge thing. Obviously, if you're training somebody, I think you have the advantage. When we're masters at the warm market. I think that's that's our thing. That's WFG's thing, right? That's what sets us apart from the other industries. So that's huge. Cool. And then these are some other things to remember, right? So this is probably one of the things that I learned a lot, obviously, in the years being here, but almost 2 years now. But I remember from a lot of people, and JR was the last one I think I heard him say it, but great edification only occurs when there's good credibility.
Yep.
Right.
So Janice Byron, we were talking about this, and because we're literally talking about this, if the appointment is gonna work and it's gonna be good and you're gonna close, you're gonna close. If you know the stuff and you're confident, it's gonna close. But at the same time, you can't. I mean, I've seen Matt go on qualified appointments. Sometimes it just won't happen. It doesn't matter. You can dance upside down, right? Do the rain dance. It doesn't matter. At the end of the day, sometimes people don't like to share all their money, concepts or whatever. What? Cool. Yeah.
Question. So, because there was a situation, I've been through this with a trainee, long time ago. So, could it be because sometimes the trainee hasn't established enough credibility with that top 25, and didn't exactly, meet with that person enough that didn't tell you about it?
Yeah, or the relationship isn't as genuine as he led you on to believe. I think that's why it's really important to know when you have somebody you're training, or if you're the one who needs to be trained. It's very important, like even with Nick, it doesn't matter who it is. It's very important, like I know when we did a few field training presentations when I was learning the business, I straight up told Nick everything about the appointment. I wasn't trying to sugarcoat it. I'm not in the business of, leading somebody on, no. Because the better I prepare somebody, if I'm going with Thomas, the better I prepare Thomas, he's ready to go to war now. Now, I told you everything, bro. Now it's all on you. I'm getting trained. I'm going to sit there, listen, take notes, eat popcorn, right? So, at the same time, that's why I think, that's true, though.
Okay, but what's the rule of thumb? How do you determine if, the trainee actually established relations? Do you ask them how many years have you known that person?
I think it goes down into, it's kind of like in cases all of it, though. I think when we make that, let's say I just brought you on board and we're making that top 25 and we're going to set up a meeting with, Thomas to make it simple. At that point, I'm either going to hear you do it or, that's the thing. I'm not going to let you do it on your own. If you're brand new, you're not going to go be doing calls by yourself, usually. Unless you come from this kind of an industry. But I'm going to listen to how you do it. So I'm going to know everything about the appointment. At that point, I'm going to ask you everything about him. How long have you known him? That's a good trainer, though. Good trainer asks, how long have you known him? How do you know him? When's the last time you guys hung out? Or whatever, And that's also talk while you're driving, right? You kind of go over the same thing. Sometimes I do that. I'll ask, the same question twice, right? So, we set up the appointment, and then if I got to ask it to you in the car again, just so I can keep it fresh and think. But yeah, that's a good question. So again, at the end of the appointment, right, if it doesn't close, right, you need the encouragement. So at that point, this is kind of like a little kind of mini script that I had written down. And this is, I think, from EdMyLed as well. Kind of pretty similar, I'd say 90%. This is some amazing stuff, right? So let's say I'm on the appointment with Thomas and Thomas is field training me. So this is what I would say to, right, let's just say Desiree. So, hey Desiree, look, you know what, this is some amazing stuff. I was behind financially, and thanks to Thomas, you know what, he showed me and my family how to put a plan in place that made sense for us. And I'm just so fortunate that I had him in my corner, I'm so fortunate I had him in my corner, and you know what, we'll have an amazing future because of it, and that's why I want him to come down and possibly share this with you. I think this is super important. I think it's an amazing time, or it's an important time to start. Now the trainer kind of takes over, hey, you know what, let's go ahead and let me show you some numbers. Would you be interested in me showing you some numbers so you can see what your future kind of looks like? Of course, or, you can use your lines or however you feel. But so far, that's pretty much the main gist of it as far as once you're there at the appointment. Obviously, for the actual KTP, that takes a whole GT, right? You get a lot of questions and stuff. Yeah, that's a lot of cookie to munch on. But at the same time, this is pretty much it. Is there any questions so far you guys have? No? Okay, cool. So for the sake of time, cool. Let's go over something real quick. So, we should role play a little bit. I want to make this a little bit more interactive. I want to get people up and moving and stuff. It's a little too dead in here, quiet. I want to get people up and moving. All right, so here, let's sit here, Matt. Want to help me out, dude? Your experience. So let's do some objection handling.
Okay.
Because you're an expert at this. So I'm gonna be the appointment, and I'm gonna be the appointment. I'm gonna ask you all the objections. Okay.
Okay.
So you know what? I would like to see numbers, but I'm really comfortable with my mutual fund that I have right now.
Really? So you like paying taxes and paying a lot of fees?
What do you mean?
Oh, your last advisor didn't tell you the fees and the market volatility of your mutual fund?
No, they didn't.
Really? How does that make you feel knowing that they didn't explain to you properly?
Well, my cousin does Primerica, so he told me that this is the best thing for me.
Really? If that were the case, you should ask him if he's doing the same thing.
Great. I love it. At the end of the day, it's just being true. It's just being honest, guys. All right, awesome. So then at that point, let's just say, hey, you know what? All right, awesome. So then, boom, get back into showing right the IUL or something. Mm-hmm. What about let me pick somebody else right now. So Thomas, what if we were kind of doing the examples? And again, I'm obviously kind of for examples and for time, I'm going into the KTP without really going. So just the objections maybe sometimes you guys get. But let's say if I was telling you, hey, you know what? it all sounds good, but I'm gonna take my time to think about it. What do you usually say?
If they say I wanna take my time to think about it.
Yeah, like, you know
Well,
what, it sounds good, but, I'll just take my time, I won't think about it.
Okay, well, let me ask you a question. What is it that you need to think about?
Question with a question, exactly. That's bread and butter, I think that's something that we should all implement more, even when prospect anything, right? The question with a question, like, is that important to you? Well, what exactly, didn't you like, is there something you didn't like? And then is there something you like, what did you like?
Would you like me to go
Something
over
to
something
elaborate
again?
more.
Point of clarification too.
Clarification, right? These are all key words, guys. I think this is all part of it. There's a lot of little intricate details. I mean, maybe in the future we can go over like the actual KTP. I think it's just so simple, guys. We have a simple slideshow presentation.
Yep.
It's like you just gotta say the words on the page. And so the main thing is sitting down with people, right? Qualified market, and that's part of this, right? So the credibility part. If you're by yourself or you're training somebody, I think that's the biggest thing that sets my personal points and when I write. I think that's really the main thing. That there's importance to it. I'm sitting down with qualified people, kids, married homeowners. I'm not sitting down with people that are 23. No offense, I was 23. Okay, but I'm just being honest. Like they don't see that. They need money for beer and pizza. So that's just the reality. At the end of the day, you want to sit down with people. Byron Janice would be a perfect example, right? You want to sit down with people that have a little bit of a better market understanding. And then two, we talked about identity and as far as like dressing right and all that. I mean, if you're sitting down with married homeowners' kids, they know married homeowners' kids.
Yep.
And that's the market you want to be in.
So true.
Yep.
Yeah, John.
Suppose it's someone that you just prospected and you really don't know their background.
Okay.
Other than when you make the initial call to them, you ask them a few questions. If you don't know them, they don't know you.
Yeah.
How do you do that?
So if you don't know them and they don't know you and you're trying to set up like a training
for
of-
myself.
Okay, so you're trying to go out on a KTP with them.
Mm.
Okay, cool. So at that point, it really just depends on how much you guys connected. Taking what you just said, I would just simply call and then just talk to the person and say, hey, you know what, Byron, hey man, how are you? Good. Hey, you know what? When we spoke, you told me you were interested. At that point, I'm very straightforward when I prospect. So I let them know it's about this. I'm not trying to like network. I'm not knocking on it. It works, but I'd rather him know that I'm talking about WFG and the business. So hey, when we spoke, hey, you know what? We talked about, a little bit about, what it is I do, and I would love to get you, to sit down with me in my office, and I want to show you really the big picture. When do you have available, these next 2 days? Does Monday or Wednesday look best for you, right? Or if you kind of gauge it more BPM, just get into the BPM, right? Tuesday night or, and then if he says, hey, what is it? Hey, right, Merrill Lynch script, right?
Yeah.
Same industry, all that stuff. Yeah, something.
You always want to aim for a recruit and miss with a sale. So if you're out prospecting and whatnot, your whole goal is to really recruit that person. It's going to lead you to a sale,
Yeah.
a KTP. But you want to either bring that person on board, and then when you sit down with them, you can gauge either
Completely.
they're going to be a business partner
Completely.
or they're going to be better as a
Completely. I mean, I think we've run the numbers before. I mean, there's so much information out there that you don't even need all this stuff. But to me, it's like over the years, it's almost like you know all this stuff as you go. So I think the biggest thing is the longer you've been here, and if you don't maybe do the things that we need to do, sometimes you kind of overthink it. But I think if you see the numbers, I mean, I can either sell to one person or recruit one and get 5 or 6 sales from one. What would you rather do?
In a top 25.
Recruit top 25. I got an endless list there, right? One guy, right, and one gal, right?
10.
Exactly. Cool. Does anybody else have any other questions, objections, or who you want to kind of throw at me or kind of go over? Yeah.
And just as a client, right?
Yeah.
Not as a recruit?
Yeah. I mean, client, recruit, whatever. Doesn't matter.
Okay,
We're versatile here at WFG.
so what makes your product different than like MetLife or State Farm?
Okay. What do you like about State Farm and MetLife?
I could say a certain feature I like in there, but then I'm not sure if it's even better than what you.
Okay. Cool. Yeah. You know what? Let me show you some information about that. I think once you see this, it'll really just knock your socks off. This is something that really rocked my world. To be honest with you, man, it changed my family. And we do know about some of these other companies out there, but I think once you get to see some of the caliber that we get to work with, we only get to work with the top companies in the industry, right? Transamerica being probably the top one. So you know what? Let me show you some of these figures. Let me show you how it works. And I think at the end, if you even have any questions, I don't think it'll even compare to that. This will be definitely a lot better.
Yeah, I think to kind of
Yeah.
piggyback on that is you guys got to remember that we're a non-captive company. What he just mentioned, I have MetLife, what makes you guys better? Okay, well, I can do all the shopping for you and figure out based on what your needs are.
Yeah.
I can give you five or 10 different companies.
Yeah.
Versus if you don't like what MetLife has, If you don't like their product, their service, they wasted your time, you're not helped, and the guy didn't make any money.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So I think that's huge. But other than that, any other questions so far?
Not a question, but
Okay. Yeah.
a statement.
Yeah. please.
Is the more appointments you go on, the better you're gonna get
Mhm.
at the words, the better you're gonna get at the objection handling. It's just scheduling appointments and getting out with a trainer who knows what they're doing, obviously. Giving them as much information as you can give them so that the appointment goes as planned. Knowing what to say and how to say it.
Yep.
It just comes with experience. I mean, we hear a lot of times, I wanna get licensed, so I'll know. I wanna come to more BPMs. I wanna go. It's what you're gonna learn is gonna be in the field.
Yeah.
Yep.
In the field, in the field, in the field. You gotta pass the test to get a license, but you're not gonna learn as much information on the studying to get the license, to be perfectly honest. What you're gonna learn about WFG, about insurance, and about clients is in the field.
Yeah.
Yep.
In the field. If you're not
Yeah.
on training appointments and you're new, and you
Yeah.
haven't completed your 10 appointments, that should be your number one focus.
Agreed 100%.
Right now.
Too many people, I think too, when you see all this stuff, sometimes